Good Friday afternoon, guys. Jerry Miller. Welcome to the I Love CVille Show. We're live in Charlottesville, the Commonwealth, the country, and the world on the I Love CVille Network. Phenomenal program lined up for you on a gorgeous Friday. I see quite a few of you watching the program today. Give it a like, give it a share on any of the 12 Facebook pages you're watching this program upon. If you're watching live on Twitter, live on Instagram, live on LinkedIn, we are everywhere. University of Virginia is going to come up today from a spotlight standpoint. We're going to talk football. We have a lot of unknowns out there right now from a football standpoint. We have the Big Ten saying they're going conference only, no away games. We talked about this last week and yesterday on how the Ivy League has postponed fall sports and whether or not this would immediately impact conferences across the country. Well, folks, we were right. The Big Ten now saying conference only games. What does this do for Notre Dame? Is Notre Dame now pushed into the Atlantic Coast Conference play because Notre Dame is not affiliated for football with any conference? What does this mean for the communities across America that have tied a lot of their local economy to football in the fall? What does this mean for the wedding and event professionals in Charlottesville and Central Virginia that are begging Jim Ryan of UVA to make an announcement for the fall football season because they need the hotel rooms to save an industry that is in peril right now? So a lot of questions we're going to be asking on today's program as we head to the fall and as we scratch our head and wonder. Literally one of my favorite things to do in the fall is to eat fried chicken from Wayside, drink Minutemen IPAs from Three Notch, have Angel's Envy in a flask that I sneak into Scott Stadium in my waistband, and hang out with my homies and my better half and my son while tailgating for a football game. I think this may not happen, unfortunately. We'll talk about footage that is now going viral of a homeless individual passed out on the Charlottesville downtown mall from drunken debauchery and intoxication, and the police responding to it. So that story is going to come up on today's show. Arthur Watson, the CEO of Castle Hill Gaming, has sent me yet another email today about what's happening at Prime 109. So I'm getting text messages, emails, and phone calls from the man who's the CEO and owns the company of the gambling machines that are inside Prime 109. I did a show yesterday on the I Love CVille Network where I led with what's happening on the mall and the concern that many merchants and restaurant operators on the mall have. They're reaching out to me. After yesterday's show, I received an email and a phone call from two separate delegates in the Virginia Assembly. An email from one delegate and a phone call from another one. Why are delegates in the Virginia Assembly sourcing my phone number and email address, watching the I Love CVille show on Wednesday and Thursday, and contacting me? So a lot of questions that I have about a gambling parlor that's coming to the downtown mall. We'll try to answer those questions for you, and we'll go to the CEO himself, Arthur Watson, to get perspective from the man who owns the machines. Guys, we're an advertising agency. We represent 114 clients as of this morning, from New Providence, New Jersey, all the way to Asheville, North Carolina. We have an office in New Providence, our headquarters, our heart, and our building in Charlottesville, Virginia at the Macklin. We love this community inside and out. Now, Judah Wickhauer is our director. He's the man behind the board. If you have comments or questions, perspective you want to share, put it in the comments section. I'll flip back and forth. You see the technology improving here. You see Aaron Kingsley literally offering comments. Way to let security know your tricks. Have fun at sporting events. I think everybody that goes into A lot of folks that go into Scott Stadium, Aaron, have flask or airplane bottles, buddy. So you can put your perspective on screen, and we will relay it on air in the most dynamic viewing party for your pleasure on the I Love CVille Network. First, let's go to sports, Judah. And I'm going to go to a headline that I'm concerned about. I'm going to put it on screen here, right behind me. I want you to go to the studio camera now, my friend, and let's look at it. ESPN, the page is loading as we speak. The Big Ten, one of the most prestigious and prominent football college conferences in America, the Big Ten moving to conference-only model for all sports this fall. This is a really big deal. When you have a Big Ten football team, and the Big Ten has a lot of really good ones, when you have a Big Ten football team on your schedule and you're outside the Big Ten, your fans really get excited to play Ohio States or the Michigans and Wisconsins of the world. So here, the coronavirus pandemic has influenced one of the most influential conferences out there to change their schedule from an out-of-conference mixed slate of games to an in-conference schedule only. This is the question I have for you. How will this impact our home, our conference, our Commonwealth? Fair questions. First off, I think you may see this. Notre Dame, who relies on playing a lot of Big Ten schools, a lot of ACC schools, they're in a precarious position with its football team because they're not associated with a conference. So if conferences across America are pulling their out-of-conference games, Notre Dame's in a tough spot right here. So I think you'll see Notre Dame infused, integrated, included into the ACC perhaps even more, and maybe COVID-19 is pushing the Fighting Irish to strengthen or join the ACC in complete totality. Right now, Notre Dame's a part of the ACC across the board except for football. Okay, so maybe COVID-19 is influencing college football and saying, look, Notre Dame, you need to have a conference affiliation, and here's why. Second, when the Ivy League says it's not going to do fall sports, the Big Ten immediately responded shortly thereafter and said, we're only going to do conference games and nix our out-of-conference schedule. So now you have two prominent leagues making some big-time moves that will most certainly influence other leagues in America. I'm curious to see what the ACC does. Right now, we've delayed the start of fall sports. I hope nothing else happens. I've said many times on this program, as a cautious optimist, what I would just like to see is college football games played in the fall without fans in the stadiums. It pains me to say that, but we need to pick the best of two really tough situations. And from my standpoint, I would rather have college football, and I could watch the games on television or my favorite watering hole, than not having college football whatsoever. Having zero college football this fall will, without question, impact local economies across America. Having no college football this fall will, without question, impact restaurants, bars, and watering holes that rely on sporting events to drive people into the doors. So from my standpoint as a cautious optimist, the last thing we need is no college football this fall. Instead, we hope for games without fans in the stadium. And that is still better than nothing. Do I think football is going to happen this fall? Guys, the more days that go by and the more spikes we continue to have and the more stories we hear from Chapel Hill and from Death Valley of players getting struck with the virus, I worry about it actually happening. Okay? Follow it closely. The ESPN nixing its out-of-conference schedule is a big deal that will certainly influence conference commissioners from California to Virginia in this country. Let's go to the next headline, Judah. This one, a little tougher pill to swallow. Why don't we put, and I'll put it on screen as well, do you have the body cam footage? Let's get that microphone in front of you. Let's get the camera on you. Do you have the body cam footage from Charlottesville PD, Judah Wickower?
Yes, we have the video.
Okay. You go ahead and play it on screen. I'll put it on the screen behind me. So put the footage on screen. Look at the screen. Look at the screen. Look at the screen. Look at the screen. This is one of the values of watching the show as opposed to just listening to it. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is footage from a Charlottesville police officer. Judah, you have that rolling now? Excellent. There's a man that is passed out. I mean, he looks like he's in some serious health issues from the body cam footage, but passed out in front of the CVS on the downtown mall. So we're watching as the policeman puts on his gloves, puts on his mask, and walks up to this individual who's passed out on the downtown mall. Okay?
Hey,
and Judah,
man,
you can come back to me
right?
here. Okay? Come back to me on the screen if you could. Go to the studio camera now if you could. I'm going to break down what I'm seeing on screen behind me. So you see the footage on screen. Here's a man. A man looks like he's not alive. There's the man who looks like he's not alive on the downtown mall in front of CVS. Cop goes up to the man to check on what's going on. Seems like a pretty normal thing to me. Checks on the dude. Is looking over the dude and talking to the dude. I'm going to go to full screen on this. All right? There's the dude. The policeman is talking to the dude, and he has not walked up yet. There you see the medics arriving. These are medics looking down at the dude. The dude is getting up. The dude looks intoxicated. Are you watching the screen? Watch the screen. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is someone capture this. There's no other media or news outlet that's doing stuff like this right here, guys, in Charlottesville, Virginia. Now what I'm going to go do is go to the CBS 19 News story. So CBS 19 News scoured social media, and they found an Instagram video. And this Instagram video is shot from the viewpoint of a patron on the mall. I'm going to let it load. It's coming up here. It has over 3,000 views in one day. I would expect after this show it's going to have a hell of a lot more than this. In fact, I'll get out of the screen. You can find it yourself. lsf.supersoldier is the handle. So look at the screen. Look at the screen. Look at the screen. Look at the screen. I'm going to show you video footage now shot from an individual. This video footage shows the police officer and the man who I just showed you on the ground, passed out, drunk and debauchery, squabbling. A little tussle ensues. So look at the screen, look at the screen, look at the screen. It's playing. You see it. Squabble. Takes him down. Headlock. Headlock. People watching around. In front of CVS. CPD jumps on top of the man who was passed out on the downtown mall. Now watch. I'm going to stand up for this, Judah. Now watch. Watch the video. Turning the corner here very shortly, you will see a number of CPD, Charlottesville police officers, turn the corner here very shortly and offer assistance. So this police officer is one-on-one on a headlock with this gentleman, this gentleman that has no home, that was drunk and passed out in the mall. The police officer is on the ground still waiting for backup to come up. There's humans watching this literally transpire, and it's posted on Instagram. So as the police officer has a headlock on the individual, there you see tightening the grip, trying to turn the man down to better position him. You're going to see a number of police officers, there they go, sprint around the corner. Are you guys seeing this? 2 immediately on the scene. A few more are going to come on. Okay? You see, we're trying to make the show even more dynamic than what it already is. There's another one, sprinting on scene. Another police officer. Okay? Another one will sprint on scene here. All right, we'll come back to me. Judah. So here's what's happening. And I'm going to cut to the chase here. So here's what's happening, boys and girls that watch this program. And give the show a like and a share. Give the show, I see a lot of people watching right now. Here's what's happening. This turn of events has got a lot of folks upset and up at arms and ready to galvanize. And immediately it pivoted toward defund the police, defund the police, defund the police. I'm going to offer a different perspective. It's not going to be a popular perspective, but I think you've seen many times, and you will see when I get to Arthur Watson, it's okay if I deliver an unpopular opinion. It doesn't matter. It's the right thing to do. So here's the perspective I share. Are you on a one shot on me, Judah?
Yeah.
Okay. Do I think that police officers are asked to do too much? Yes. Do I think police officers are asked to be counselors, are asked to be mediators, are asked to be enforcers of the law, are asked to be community stewards? They're asked to do too many things. Okay? This particular circumstance with a passed out individual on the Charlottesville downtown mall is clearly an individual that has a trouble with alcohol. If you're in the middle of the afternoon, during the week, and you're passed out cold on bricks in 90-degree weather in a public space that people walk around, you have a problem with alcohol. That is safe to say. We've all had, maybe not all of us, but we've all had beverages. We've all maybe had too much to drink at some point. This gentleman's passed out on the downtown mall. So, Charlottesville Police Department, listen to what I have to say here. What is expected of you, Charlottesville Police Department, is so much, almost to a point of being unfair. That being said, you are asked to do this right now. Until people say, stop doing this work, stop responding to calls of drunken, passed out debauchery on the downtown mall, until people say that, all you are doing is your job. And if I was a police officer, if you were as a police officer, if your wife or your husband was the police officer and the first person to respond to a drunken, debaucherous, passed out individual on the downtown mall, your job is to protect yourself and the community. So CPD, you're right down the street from me, okay? I feel for you and the position you are in. You are being unfairly characterized, again, because of what just transpired. A police officer responded to a drunk, passed out guy on a mall, and that drunk, passed out guy got frisky and aggressive to the officer, and the officer did what he had to do from a training standpoint to control the situation. I have zero beef with that. I have no problem with the police officer protecting himself and the community from an aggressive, debaucherous, drunken, passed out guy. Now, for all that are saying defund the police, you have more ammunition to say police officers aren't supposed to be or are not trained to respond to drunken, passed out guys, alcohol, and drug addiction problems. Instead of asking police officers to come to these circumstances first, perhaps the call should be made to an addiction specialist or an addiction counselor, because jailing an individual because he's drunk and passed out is not a good use of tax revenue, because the gentleman has an addiction and putting him in the slammer for him to cool off or sober up is not going to lead to that addiction being kicked. That is a fair argument. That is a fair argument. That is a fair argument. Maybe the addiction counselors should be the first to respond to addiction problems. Maybe putting this gentleman in the slammer so he can sober up and using taxpayer dollars to get him sober for a 12-hour period or however long he's in the slammer is not the best use of dollars that could be otherwise allocated to schools. I get that. But at this point, where we are today, on this beautiful Friday in July in Charlottesville in Central Virginia, the officer who responded to the call, this is what he had at his disposal. And Charlottesville PD, listen to me here, please. You guys did the right move. You did the right thing there. You did the training that you were taught. You controlled the situation. And that might not be a popular opinion. But that's the right perspective. Yes, this is an indication of potentially defunding the department and having addiction counselors respond to the incident before a show of force. But we're not in those circumstances yet. So don't hold someone that's local, that's just trying to get through his shift and stay healthy and alive so he can get back to his family. That doesn't make him the bad guy. Give the show a like and a share on any of these 12 Facebook pages you're watching. We got a lot of people watching the program. Ryan Burris, hello. Winston Cherry, hello. Jen Finazzo, hello. Emily Dooley, hello. Beth Marcus, hello. Whitney Sipe, hello. Kelly Lewis, Bob Shada, Joshua Tracy, Jacqueline Greiger, James Watson, Freddie Jackson, Will Smith. Oh my goodness, oh my goodness. So many people watching. Ray Cadell says this, where did the medics go and when? If you watch the video, the police officer let the medics go. And if you also listen to the sound on the video, you will see that the police officer is literally trying to figure out an alternative solution to arresting this gentleman. He literally says in the video, the police officer to the gentleman that's wasted, if you can get off the mall and go somewhere else, I won't arrest you. He says it in the video. And the guy says, to respond to the police officer, he says, I need a cigarette and a 22-ounce soda, and I'm going to go pass out over there on the downtown mall. It's literally heard in the video. I need a cigarette and a 22-ounce soda, and I'm going to go pass out on there on the mall. You cannot, we cannot, our community cannot have drunken debauchery and drunken, passed-out individuals on the downtown mall. We cannot have that. We cannot have that. It's not fair to the people downtown. It's not fair to the community. It's not fair to the tax revenue that's going to get cannibalized if this stuff continues. It is a tough spot right now, boys and girls, for an 8 blocks that I love so dearly, so dearly. Give the show a like and a share on any of these 12 Facebook pages. I'm going to get to these comments here in a matter of moments. Andre Xavier, Suzanne Jenkins, Mary Blake, Dan Blake, Aaron King, welcome to the program. Folks in Northern Virginia, Richmond, Southwest Virginia, Tennessee, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania watching the show. Judah, I even count 7 states watching the broadcast as we speak right now. Beth Marcus says, I agree with you. Tim Ryan says, I agree. He should not be passed out on the mall. We got this coming in from Jennifer. Jerry, if he's passed out in the park, the police probably let him alone. The reason he got in trouble was because he was on the downtown mall. Those are facts. How many times have you walked through Market Street Park, formerly known as Lee Park, Market Street Park, and have seen passed out individuals in the park? It happens all the time. All the time. If you want to get a snooze, if you want to sip some booze, you do it in the park. If you want to get a snooze and you want to sip some booze, you don't do it outside CVS. Next story. Give the show a like and a share. Give it a like and a share. Give it a like and a share. Judah, do you have pull quotes that we can get on screen from Arthur?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to ask for those pull quotes. Before I do, and you see it behind me, I'm going to search my inbox, find the email that I got from Arthur Watson, which is right here. Now, go to the studio camera, please. You will see this email, and I've invited and I've welcomed every person that's associated with this concept to the show. You can sit there, you can come on via Skype, you'll have an open-ended program, you can give me a hard time on my show, on my platform, in front of this audience if you want. You have an open invitation, anyone from Prime. You have an open invitation, Arthur Watson. Go on a one shot to me. One shot straight up to me. Tell me when you're there. Arthur Watson, CEO of Castle Hill Gaming. You have an open invitation to come on this show anytime you want. Appreciate these long emails that you're sending to me, the phone calls and text messages that are consuming my time. Come on the show and have a conversation of what's happening. Okay? All right. Again, I've reiterated that to you. So let's go to the email because it's easier to control a narrative when you type the words in a keyboard and hit send as opposed to answering real life questions from someone like me that's going to ask, frankly, real questions. So the email, studio camera, Judah, studio camera. You see this email, I get this email, I got links in here, I got all kinds of stuff. I mean, this is, to think I have, I actually read this, okay? But this is like 1,000 words here. This is serious. Now, let's go to the pull quotes. A couple things I want to pull from here. The first pull quote I want, let's do the one that starts with "to the specific history of skill games," Judah. That's on screen? Okay. So look at the screen. 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 Okay. He says this, and I'm going to read it from the email. To the specific history of skill games, over the last 4 years, gray market games that are not clearly legal or illegal, have poured into Virginia, led by Pesomatic subsidiary Queen of Virginia. Okay, so Queen of Virginia is a company controlled by a man in Georgia. Somehow a company and a man in Georgia is strong-arming or forcing or has the governor of Virginia's ear. Okay, so Castle Hill CEO says these games are clearly gray market games that are not clearly legal or illegal. Let's put the second full-screen graphic pull quote on. Give me a thumbs up when that's on, please. Look at the screen. Read the screen. Educate yourself on what's happening. Look at the screen. So the second quote from Arthur really says a lot to me. Okay? And I'm going to wait and take a deep breath as I gather my thoughts. He says, I personally find the state's approach to allowing these games to proliferate untaxed and unregulated to be bad public policy. All right, so come back to me, please. I'm trying to understand something here. So I'm trying to help me work through this emotionally, guys, and help me work through this, please. We have a guy who owns a company, and this guy who owns the company openly says Virginia's approach to allowing these games to proliferate untaxed and unregulated is bad public policy. He said that. We have a guy who owns a company that literally is calling these gray area games not legal or illegal. These are the games you see in the gas stations, in the corners, video crack. So we got a guy that makes the games, we got a guy that owns the company, a guy that is using private funding, who literally is saying these are gray, Legal or illegal, we're not sure. And I think the fact that this is happening untaxed and unregulated by the government is BS. However, the games are still being made, and they're still being pushed to businesses locally as a way to generate revenue. So my friends, the viewers that watch this program, I got a couple of questions for you. These are questions that any reasonable person with common sense should ask. And this is why the Downtown Business Owners Association, this is why business owners across Charlottesville, and why local government in Charlottesville, and why delegates from the Virginia Assembly are reaching out to me. They're either unaware, uneducated, or very aware and very educated and tremendously concerned. So all of the above. So here's some questions I have for everybody that we all should be asking. A, why are Virginia delegates contacting me, sourcing my phone number from other people and my email address, asking me for knowledge on what's happening and what's going to transpire in Charlottesville? Why are elected officials in the Virginia Assembly contacting me about this? Why? Question 2, why are business owners and operators of restaurants around downtown Charlottesville and the city of Charlottesville encouraging me to push further with this topic? Why? Question 3, why will the owner of the games not talk on the record to me about what is happening? Emails, text messages, press releases, op-ed columns in newspapers, all messaging you can originate and control. Come on the show and answer my questions. Why won't you do that? Next question. What government agency is enforcing slot machines in Virginia? If the ABC is enforcing the slot machines in Virginia, do they actually have the power and authority to do so? Next question. What happens to the revenue from each machine? How is it counted? How is it allocated? Where does it go to? How does the community, the Commonwealth, and local municipalities benefit from said gambling revenue? Do we have those answers? I'd like those answers. Do you want those answers? I don't have those answers. I can't find those answers. Tell me those answers. Come on. How did a company in Georgia force Governor of Virginia, Ralph Northam, and his hand on this issue? Do you have those answers? I don't have those answers. I'd like those answers. You like those answers. Why won't anybody talk about it? So this is either the worst PR I've ever seen in my life, the worst brand management I've ever seen in my life, or there's something where there's smoke, there's fire. Okay? I'm cutting to the chase. Like, if each machine, and I'll go back to the email. How about this from the email? You see it. I'll read it so you can see it. Studio cam. The legislature seemed to agree and sent a bill to the governor to ban the games, which passed by wide margins. However, the governor used his line item veto power to amend the bill and make the games legal for next year. They would pay $1,200 per machine per month tax that would go into a state coronavirus fund. The bill did not name a regulator nor include many restrictions in its 3 pages. It did provide that all games placed by June 30th, 2020, quote, may continue to operate on or after July 1, 2020, end quote. Any games placed after June 30th would be deemed illegal with steep penalties. Okay, so does that mean all you have to do for this machine is give $1,200 per machine per month to a Corona fund? And then the rest of the money that comes to the machine goes to the bottom line as revenue? Is that what that means? Is that what that means? And also, studio cam. Also, why do we have antiquated laws from the ABC when it says you have to sell X amount of food for every X amount of booze you sell? Is it a 60-40 split, guys? Educate me on that. Put it in the feed. Virginia restaurants have to sell X amount of food dollars for every dollar of booze they sell. Put it in the feed and educate me. So if there are laws like that for booze sales, and there is, why are there not laws like that for gambling sales in the same establishments? So can gambling, can the entire $1,200 after $1,200 per machine is allocated to wherever this coronavirus fund, this very vague state coronavirus fund, okay? Why? Do you see why the restaurant operators are texting me and saying, go further. We don't think this is fair. Go further. Do you see? This is literally what's happening. Kelly Jackson, the star of Women Changing Our World, says this: will the new gaming on the ball bring more homelessness to the mall to panhandle? Will the homeless take the money they get and just spend it on the slots? That is a good question. There's a lot of statistical data out there about this. Now, I'm going to go back to the studio camera before we go to a different headline. Put your comments in the feed right now, and I will relay them on air. Studio camera. Final sentence from Arthur. I'm reading it, okay? Look. As to Prime, the project is still developing. We hope to be able to offer a high-end destination entertainment venue in the near future. This dude is telling us what the plan is in the final paragraph of his email. The project is still developing. We hope to be able to offer a high-end destination entertainment venue in the near future. I mean, okay, so one dude with a lot of questions that right now don't have many answers whatsoever. I got the Downtown Business Owners Association saying, bring it. We have the same questions. I spoke to city councilors on Wednesday. They had no idea. I spoke to City Hall. Literally, City Hall called me on Wednesday. They had no idea. I got a guy who owns the machines that won't talk on the record. I got Virginia delegates calling me and emailing me, folks from the Virginia Assembly. Let's go to the comments. Gary Grant. I mean, this is a good comment. This is about the guy who was passed out on the mall. So here's a tough part, and he makes a good point. 911. Someone sees a guy passed out on the mall in front of CVS, and Gary Grant is saying, so this is what you want people to do. 911, please send me a counselor first? No. Police are the police, the community. Police come first to secure the scene. That protects counselors and EMTs, and everyone gets protection. The police has to come first. Thank you to this police officer. Sorry it had to come to a tussle, but thanks to this officer. That's a really good point. For folks that are saying defund the police, that addiction counselors should be the ones that handle the drunken debauchery in the mall, that drug use on the mall, and not police officers themselves, a very good point Gary Grant just made was you're still going to need the police officer to arrive to maintain the security of the counselor, and that's a fact. So when we're screaming defund the police, let's please all realize that a police officer is going to have to be there to maintain the security or safety of the counselor that's hopefully helping the person that has drug or alcohol problems. So Gary Grant, good statement. Well played. 100% agree. Give Gary some props. Robin Fetter has this. Jerry, addiction counselors, they are also stretched thin as is. Our mental health system is grossly underfunded and broken. How do we fix this? I think it will require more than simply giving extra funds. So she makes the really good point. She goes, we're talking about defunding the police. If we defund the police, we better capitalize and fund our counselors, because right now they're operating at a financial deficit as well. Everybody is, especially in a COVID-19 ecosystem. And I'm going to tell you right now, the last thing we need in Charlottesville, in the city, was this that happened on Wednesday. It's all over the TV news, all over the newspaper news, and we understand why the police released the body camera footage. They did it to say, this is what we dealt with. Okay? Oh, what a time to be alive. Bashir is watching from his fabulous restaurant in the downtown mall. Bashir, I love you, Bashir. I love your family, Bashir. I love you, Bashir. He says, not defund, but reform. Agreed. Not defund, but reform. Agreed. Massage and improve. Pivot and innovate. Andre Xavier, Chief Executive Officer, CVille Hop-On Tours, founder, CVille Travel, says this: the officer did a great job. Folks should not be too quick to judge him. He's following all the protocols. I agree. I don't see how this guy is catching grief right now. I love you too, Bashir. Thank you. Thank you for putting that in the feed. Let's go to the next headline. Wow, we are really going on time. All right, so let me go to the headlines. I'm pulling them up right behind me. I want to go to the one from NBC 29, and then we'll take your comments. If you guys want to influence the opinion, influence the discussion, if you want to offer any perspective whatsoever, now's the time to do it. Put it in the feed, put your comments, put your thoughts. I'll relay them on air. You look right here. I'm sure you saw it. It's behind me now. A PVC student in a healthcare class. Good Lord. A PVC student tested positive, or is alerting, excuse me. I'm going to read this to get this verbatim. Piedmont, Virginia Community College is alerting students and faculty after someone tested positive for coronavirus. It sent the letter out on Thursday, July 9th. Is that yesterday? Yeah, that was yesterday. The community college says it reported the situation to the Thomas Jefferson Health District. Classes have been suspended for 2 weeks. Good night. Piedmont, Virginia Community College says it will keep everyone updated as any future situations arise. So PVCC, 2-week suspension of classes, one student tests positive in a healthcare class. The reason I'm asking this question is like, or bringing this up is, we're closing the school. Classes have been suspended for 2 weeks for this. Classes have been, studio camera. Classes, just the class. The class has been suspended for 2 weeks. Guys, what are we going to do? What are we going to do when UVA returns and someone gets COVID? What do we do? I mean, is that not a fair question? I mean, how do they handle this? Do they shut down all the classes in the building for 2 weeks? We need a plan. What is the plan? Oh my goodness gracious. I hope when students return to grounds in Charlottesville at the University of Virginia, I hope it goes as smoothly as humanly possible. I pray, as a God-fearing man, I pray it goes as smoothly as humanly possible. But everyone who's watching this show, everyone knows something is going to come up. Especially when it comes to 18 to 22 to 23-year-olds with a sense of invincibility, with a mindset of freedom, with a perspective of partying, and with time on their hands. Mother, I did see what happened at your place, Bashir, today, and I'm very sorry for that. I'm sorry that you had to deal with that when you visited your restaurant, my friend. You did not deserve that. I'm sorry about the Bashir. I wish you nothing but the best, my friend, on this downtown mall. I really mean that. I wish nothing but all of them the best on the downtown mall. Everyone. In Charlottesville. Oh my goodness. I'm going to reiterate this again for everyone that's watching the show. Arthur, you have an open seat at this table for an interview, Arthur Watson of Castle Hill, anytime you want, because there's so many questions that people are asking right now, and I'm literally looking at them in the feed and don't have a response for you. How is the proceeds from the gambling controlled? Okay? Why did a businessman in Georgia force this through? Why did Governor Northam leverage veto power when the Virginia Assembly wanted to ban these machines? Why wasn't the community communicated with when it came to many of them arriving on the most precious real estate in Charlottesville, not named the University of Virginia? Why, or are there regulations when it comes to gambling and food like there are regulations for booze sales and food sales? Why was this crept in under the deadline? Why is the owner of the machines calling this concept gray area and a fine line between legal and illegal? Put the pull quotes back up. Both of them. Flip through them. Flip through them. Please, put the first one up. Tell me when that's on screen. Look at the screen. Look at the screen. Read the screen. Why are Virginia delegates calling me? Guys, go to the second one, JW. Fair questions. All I'm trying to do with this platform is ask real questions, frank questions. We have the largest following in the area. Facts. No one reaches more people. Facts. Okay? When 100+ individual business owners call, text, or email saying what the HE double hockey sticks is going on, shine a spotlight on it, what am I supposed to do? The owner of the games is calling out the character and questioning the integrity of what is happening. You see it. The owner of the machines is calling out the character and integrity of what is happening. This is like an opportunistic, capitalistic pursuit before the government and the law catches up. This is like, you know what this reminds me of? This is like when synthetic marijuana like salvia. Have you ever heard of salvia, synthetic marijuana? There was a time when synthetic marijuana wasn't clearly outlined into being legal or illegal. It was this gray, nebulous area. And as a result of this gray, nebulous area, head shops everywhere were peddling salvia and other synthetic marijuana. Then the law and the government, which is notoriously slow and bureaucratic, eventually caught up and said, "Good night." Kids and teenagers and young adults are abusing synthetic marijuana and salvia. We need to fill the loophole, and we need to get the law and the legislation clear cut and make this illegal. And bing, bam, boom, it is now. We have bureaucracy and government that hasn't caught up to something, and call it innovation, call it entrepreneurial, call it opportunistic, call it capitalistic, call it taking advantage. Don't all apply for what's happening here? Oh. And you know what? It ruffles some feathers. People don't like to hear it. Some. It needs to be out there. It needs to be out there. We all know this needs to be out there. Everyone. Oh, man, it's Friday. We're an hour in. I said this was going to be an abbreviated show. Jay Bartle, Bartles. Am I saying that right, Jay Bartle? You make phenomenal points, Jay Bartle, on social media. Jay Bartle, I'm seriously, if I'm saying your name wrong, you make phenomenal points. Jay Bartles says, I call that fleecing. Comment just came in from Jay Bartle. Thank you for leaving that comment. I see many other comments like this on the feed. All right, guys. This is the I Love CVille Show. My name is Jerry Miller. Stephen Martin, hello. Welcome to the show, Stephen Martin. I've enjoyed conversating with you on social media, Stephen Martin. This is what we're about. Honesty, approachability. From my standpoint, you know what leadership is? From my standpoint, leadership is handling topics where the cool kids may give you some grief. And you're seeing that from Hunter and his clan, from Lauren and his clan. Okay. But leadership is having the skin and the vision to handle it because you know you're doing well by the community. And the texts, phone calls, and God, I just got another one. Great work, Jerry. This is from Mike. I'm watching your show. You're absolutely right. Slot machines and gambling on the downtown mall should be talked about with everyone. Thank you. Ask the tough questions, even if it means you catch some grief. That's what makes this network followed and watched. And Arthur, I'm going to say it again, one shot on me. Arthur Watson. Come on the show. You're doing your work and your model a disservice by being clandestine, by not being transparent, by not answering questions. And as that clandestine, as that secretive nature gains momentum, your mission and your model will suffer because you're losing the trust from the folks in the community. Do you understand? This is called PR. Frankly, 101. All right? I'm Jerry Miller. This is the I Love CVille Show. You guys have a good weekend. We'll see you on Monday. Judah. I really like the being able to on the screen. I think it really adds a dynamic to the show. It'd be really good when we can get videos and I can break it down like this, but almost like an NFL, like you see on ESPN. Yeah, good. All right, we're clear.